Okay, since we last spoke, the aftermath following the World Cup final is absolutely insane. Huge protests have broken out in India. There were 9 mass shootings in the US on one weekend. The IRS are going to be taxing the World Cup players' prize money. Ronaldo is freaking liking Instagram posts accusing Argentina of corruption. I mean, it is just all kicking off. So let me update you on what the hell's been going on in this world over the past few days. In one of the craziest places we've recorded a YouTube video. But I feel like this setting's a little bit dark. Alex, you have the power to turn night to day, right? Let's try it. Gosh, that was... Alex, you are the all-powerful. How... Can you magic a laptop in my hand? Whoa! Alex, you are a magician. What about your nipple in the other? Whoa! Alex, okay, this is getting ridiculous. Get out of here. Let's get just some real news, alright? Enough playing around with your magic tricks. Okay, so before we go to any World Cup news, the final World Cup news we will ever have on this channel for 4 years, we've got to talk about Andrew and Tristan Tate, because what's happened this week for them is looking majorly serious. If they are extradited from the US, where they currently are, to the UK, they may face life in jail. So the warrant that they were arrested on was unsealed on Monday in court, and it's pretty damn concerning. So British officials have hit Andrew Tate with 7 counts of that word, Alex will show you, 3 counts of trafficking, 3 more counts of assault, and 19 charges relating to indecent images of a child and extreme other word I can't say on here. Tristan Tate, on the other hand, is facing 1 count of sexual assault, 2 counts of RAP, and 3 counts of you-know-what, trafficking. Don't blame me for having to bleep so much of this out, blame YouTube. So altogether, they face charges that, if convicted for, would put them in prison for potentially life. That is, however, if they are extradited. Now that is somewhat likely because the UK and the US do share an extradition treaty, but the decision to accept the British request is taken to the US State Department. The request will then be considered by the US court, with the final decision being made by US Secretary of State Marco Rubio. And that is potentially the other thing that could halt this, because they firmly deny all of these accusations and they say that they are politically motivated, that it's a witch hunt.
They've made it up to slander me in the media over and over and over again. How come they keep talking about Andrew Tate? That's because I highlight the problems with the country. They don't want to fix the problems, they want to get rid of me for talking about the problems.
Which is an argument that perhaps the Trump administration would be more considerate to. Now ultimately, here's the thing. While this does look very bad for them, they have been here before. And you know, despite all of their property being seized, the media treated them as guilty, they were never actually convicted in court for their alleged crimes. And I guess that's important to keep in mind, because if you just looked at the news and the media, it will often paint people out as guilty before they've even had their day in court. So like it or hate it, Andrew and Tristan Tate are innocent until proven guilty. Alright, moving on. Okay, let's yap about the World Cup. Heartbreak for the last time, because the World Cup final, the aftermath following that, is still just absolutely going insane. So not only, as you probably have seen, did multiple Argentina players and staff suddenly switch sports and just go into the UFC for some reason. What the hell was that? Which many of you will be very happy to hear that FIFA has announced that they have appointed a disciplinary and ethics prosecutor to investigate this behavior. So we may be looking at fines or suspensions for some of those people. But also, back at home in Buenos Aires, that on that night, their fans got a little bit rowdy as well, forcing the freaking riot police to be deployed with water cannons. It was chaos. I mean, it is at the point now where people broadly are describing this as a victory not just for Spain, but for football as a whole. And that's not just because of the poor sportsmanship that Argentina showed in that final, even turning their backs as the Spanish players lifted the trophy, but also just because plainly Spain dominated Argentina on the field in almost every measurable metric. Alex, listen to this one. Sheesh, I know how much you love football. Not only did Martinez, their keeper, have to make 11 saves, which is the most on record for a final for a goalkeeper, but also Argentina became the first team in history not to have a single shot on goal in 90 minutes. Their first shot came in 117 minutes, 3 minutes before the final whistle with Messi. That is unprecedented. Now, that didn't stop the Argentina president from accidentally posting the wrong tweet saying, "World celebration." I feel like this one was scheduled. And then he was talking about how, you know, depending on how the Argentina players and staff want to celebrate, he will declare it a national holiday. Feel like it's too late to take that back. You have to declare it anyway. It'll just be a day of sorrow and misery. But on the topic of Argentina and their alleged favoritism, did Ronaldo just suggest to the entire world that he thinks FIFA is corrupt and favored Argentina during this World Cup? That is the question that a lot of people are asking today, because it appears that he liked an Instagram video which spoke about this theory, alleging that FIFA helped Argentina reach the final. And rightfully so. People have been going crazy about it. So in this video on Instagram, a Spanish journalist says that, roughly translated into English, Argentina should have been eliminated 5 matches ago. They're still in the tournament thanks to FIFA's help. Ronaldo, why are you liking this, huh? What do you have to say? Now, to be fair, before we go too crazy and say that Ronaldo was picked aside, it is possible that Ronaldo, he liked this accidentally, or maybe it wasn't even him on his account. I'm sure he has social media managers, maybe they were doom scrolling and they accidentally liked it. Or his kids on his account, who knows? I mean, does Ronaldo seem like the kind of guy that would be doom scrolling on Instagram? Not really. What? Oh, we've got some breaking news here live in the studio. We've got one more foot-related thing.
I'm going to source Euro News. The World Cup petition nearly breaks Guinness World Record.
Yep.
It's amassed more than 23 million signatures.
Wow, so we are hearing here from a live reporter on the scene, Miss Madeline Wright, that the petition to kick Argentina out of the World Cup nearly reached a Guinness World Record of 23 million petitions. That's pretty insane. Speaking about controversial topics though, have you seen Spain? They will be taxed for their winnings, because the biggest winner out of the World Cup might just be the IRS. That's because this year, the record-breaking $871 million prize pool turns out will be partly taxable by the US government. So when I looked into this, it's not as simple as just like a flat rate. So football federations themselves are apparently exempt from this taxation, but the players, the coaches, the staff, etc., they are not. So for example, Spain, they won $51 million by coming first place. And what they do with that money is that they divvy it up between multiple different parties. A bunch of this goes to the players, the coaches. So the players, rough estimates say $500,000 to $600,000 per player. And they will definitely not be exempt from that tax. And, you know, it depends on what treaty the Spanish have with the US. But I know some of the taxes can go as high as 30%. That is rough. And then, now that it is over, I think we've got to ask, in conclusion, how did we enjoy the World Cup? Was it the most successful World Cup of all time, or the most corrupt? Because you could make an argument for both. On the one hand, the good side, it shattered multiple records. It was the most viewed World Cup of all time, around 6 billion people. It was the most attended with nearly 7 million fans across 104 games. The stadiums were 99.7% full across the tournament, despite the ticket prices, but we'll get to that. Despite the widespread concerns of safety of the World Cup, considering it's being held in America, the FBI announced that there were 0 major security incidents across any of the US games. That I personally am actually pretty shocked about. It's also, of course, being in America, likely the most profitable World Cup ever. And I mean, this is not even considering the amount of records that were broken by the football itself. But then on the other hand, some pretty shady shit went down. It became the first World Cup in history where a host nation was at literal war with the participants. Ticket prices were more expensive than ever. Some tickets for the final were between $32,000 and upwards of $2 million. Visas, that was a whole issue for referees, journalists, photographers, and even some coaching staff were denied. How can we not talk about the potential political interference with Balogun's red card being overturned, or at least him allowed to play the game where he shouldn't have played? Many people were outraged about the hydration breaks, just so they could cut to more ads, let's be honest. And then of course, how could we forget the controversial refereeing and VAR decisions? Sometimes in favor of Argentina, some would say. But ultimately, I want you guys to put it in the comments. What do you think? Was this the best World Cup ever, or the most corrupt? Okay, it is starting to rain here. Maybe we should pack up. Okay, well, how about, Alex, let's really test you out. Place me in another country where it's not raining. Where do we want to go?
Let's do China.
China?
China.
Let's test you out now, Alex. Thought so. Didn't think so.
No. No way, Alex. There is no chance. Maddie, are you here? Okay, good. Look at that. Is that even real? What is real anymore? You've done all of this for us, Alex. It's so kind of you. Here's one crazy thing about China, is that they have these little, like, I don't know, like refrigerators here. And then you just scan something, doo-doo-doo, pull it out, and they trust you just to take one. Well, they don't trust you. There's a camera on every single corner of the world, but they trust you. They trust you. One thing that's really nice when it's super late at night in at least the 3 Asian countries that I've been into, Japan, China, and Korea, it feels so chill at night. Like, it's almost 11 o'clock and we've got like families walking around, just out here living. Look at that. Crazy.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Oh. What the hell? It's past their bedtime.
How dare you? Huh? Before we start our stories, cat! Meow! Ni hao, cat! Ni hao! Ni hao, puss puss! Puss puss, ni hao! Alright, so first bit of news that's been going on. MrBeast, he has just got married. In fact, he just found the time to get married. I think that's the most surprising thing there. He shared all of these wedding photos on his Instagram with his now, so distracting, his now wife, Tia. It was Boyson, now I guess Donaldson. That's quite pleasant. I mean, low-key, I thought that he was gonna have some like crazy Squid Game wedding, but it looked like just some chill tropical destination, and she is now a very wealthy woman. Unless, I guess, he got her to sign a prenup, which he does seem like that kind of guy. Joking. Congratulations, Jimmy. All right. Quite a serious topic to be talking about in a very unserious setting, but the New York mayor, Zohan Mamdani, he made a video this week talking about Netanyahu ahead of his visit. He's going to be visiting New York in September. And bro did not mince his words. Mamdani called Netanyahu a war criminal, that he was a commander of a genocide. And the context of this is that in the lead up to his campaign to become New York mayor, he always said that he would carry out the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant on Netanyahu if he ever stepped foot in New York.
As mayor, New York City would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. This is a city that our values are in line with international law. It's time that our actions are also.
Well, turns out he's now the mayor and Netanyahu's about to turn up to New York. But then in this video, he said that they were looking into every possible legal angle that they could, but now they don't actually have the legal authority to arrest Netanyahu independently as New York. They do say the federal government does, however. So he was urging the federal government to arrest Netanyahu, but then Donald Trump, as you'd imagine, he tweeted almost immediately saying that Netanyahu would not be arrested when he comes to the US in any way, shape, or form. Transition, Alex. 3, 2, 1. Speaking about New York, they're actually becoming the first in rolling out humanoid robots in classrooms. Yes, they're teaching our children. So soon, Salamanca City Central School District will pilot AI robots. And these are not just like AI on a screen. It's like got a face, it's humanoid. So it gives it that a lot more like realistic feeling. And they're calling it a teacher's assistant. Key emphasis on the assistant. They don't want it replacing the teachers. This one that you're seeing right now that Alex has put somewhere there is called Sally. Good old Sal. And she's been programmed with the entire curriculum, and she can provide 24/7 tutoring for homework. And students even can use a personal ID so they can actually reference past conversations that they had with good old Sal and then build this relationship. Starting to feel weird. As for now, because it's still a test, she's only going to be even called myself it. It will only be teaching 11th and 12th graders, and then if it works out, they'll start passing them through the grades. That's it, transition. Also this week, there have been huge protests breaking out in India. In fact, yesterday, these protests even turned violent, and the people that are protesting are angry. They are furious for a very interesting reason. Basically, in India, there is one test called the NEET test, and it is for every medical student in the entire country. Over 2 million people have to take this test, and the number of positions that are available are only about 100,000. So the rate at which people actually get in is so marginal. And keep in mind, this is like the only way that you become a doctor in India. So because of that, huge value is placed on this test. Entire families take out huge amounts of debt to give their kids coaching for this test. The kids, they give up everything to prepare for it. But then all of this came crashing down when they found out that yet again, the actual exam answers got leaked before the test. And so they literally had to cancel the whole thing and then reschedule a retest. And so now, yet again, you have millions of young people not knowing if they've just worked their ass off for years, taking out money for this thing, and this test that they're about to take might not even be fair. The people that get those jobs in the end, they might have just had the cheat sheet. And so this anger and fury has spiraled into something so much bigger now. They are literally demanding the resignation of the education minister and huge education reforms as well. And things only got worse when their chief justice in India compared the angry unemployed youth to cockroaches and parasites. So this whole thing is turning into a massive problem for the government as a whole. And it was all triggered by one set of exams being leaked. The straw that broke the camel's back. Speaking about backs being broken, Alex, can you just like book us a hotel room or something? Ugh. All right, what the hell else has been going on? There were 9 mass shootings this weekend alone in the US. That's pretty insane. Apparently 9 people were killed and 60 others were wounded across various states. That's pretty wild. Now, reports say that most of these incidents were related to gang altercations and it wasn't just random. But I mean, the timing of this is just crazy because I feel like we haven't really heard a lot about this in the US because the World Cup was on, but now it's over. So it's back to this. Speaking of the US though, we now know how much the war in Iran has cost the US taxpayer, emphasis on so far.
Senator, the estimate we have as of today is $37.5 billion.
$37 billion. I know, we throw those numbers around a lot like, oh, 37 billion, that's not... No. That is the entire GDP of a number of countries. He's actually requesting a further $87 billion with $67 billion designated to operations in the Middle East. So a further 68 is prepared and or at least wants to go towards that. Hegseth went on to say that his funding request came at an urgent time as we have to prepare for war in order to maintain peace. And then lastly, in probably the most bizarre news I have heard in a while, the president of Nicaragua came out and said this week, we're not having any more elections, like ever again. So Daniel Ortega, he has been in office for nearly 20 years, since 2007. That's already long enough. And he is currently serving his 4th straight term. But then, out of the blue, he said, you know what? I'm tired of this, like every few years we go through these elections. Let's just scrap them. We don't need to do them anymore. Now, his critics say that he chose to do this because he thought that this was just a better decision to scrap them entirely than to stage them like he has been, which he's been accused of. In fact, in the last election in 2021, it was widely disputed and labeled as rigged after he jailed political opponents. So yeah, never having elections again, not too sure how the people of Nicaragua are gonna feel about that, but that is where we wrap this video. Next video comes on Saturday. I'm sure it's gonna be a good one. I think this is one of the this is the last one gonna be in China. One of the last ones, we'll see. And then it's back to the News Daddy HQ. If you want to see what we're doing on our travels, make sure you go and sign up to Patreon. We are also doing daily voice notes on Patreon, rounding up the news every single day. So if you don't want to wait for these whenever they arrive, sign up to Patreon. All right, Alex, thank you very much for editing. Thank you very much behind the camera for recording all of this nonsense. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you on Saturday.